FitFizz. FitFizz. Let's go.
Hello, FitFizz friends. I'm so glad you're here today because this episode is going to focus on explaining exactly what a health coach or nutrition coach does, what functional medicine is, and why I feel so strongly that they are the future of healthcare. I know that's a strong statement, so stay tuned. In case you're new to FitFizz, I'm Kelly Wilson, owner of FitFizzStudio.com, and I am a personal trainer, nutrition coach, behavior change specialist, autoimmune disease fighter, and I have over 20 years of experience in this field. I've been around long enough to see the best advice change quite a lot over time, and I'm glad that I can share my knowledge with you so that you can ditch the gimmicks, find strength through your struggles, and I am also here to help you to remember to celebrate victory all along the way. The information shared here is for educational and informational purposes only. None of the contents should be interpreted as an intent to heal, diagnose, treat, cure, or prescribe. And if you have any serious health concerns, you should discuss those with your doctor. And now that that's out of the way, let's get on with the show. Now, based on all that I've learned over the last few years during my experiences with autoimmune disease, I want to say that I'm not against modern medicine, but I am very, very pro-functional medicine. I want to bring some awareness and help you understand that there are other options out there than just going to a regular doctor or even a specialist in the traditional sense of Western medicine. We are taught to just expect them to have the best answers or the best solutions. And I believe that that's no longer really the smartest route, in my opinion. I've had a lot of bad experiences with general practitioners over the past couple years, and I've talked to so many people who have been through it as well. And I just want to maybe open your eyes to some other options that are out there. I'm going to admit that I do have a little bit of residual anger from misinformation that I was given by former doctors, that they had been blatantly misinforming me for years. And much of that information is part of what led me to having full-blown autoimmune disease. So I'm going to explain some of that. Like many people, I was taught to just trust in doctors. And in short, medications that I was on were doing major damage to my body on a cellular level. According to them, all of my lab tests were quote unquote normal. And I know now that what they considered normal has been outdated since the 1950s. So lab testing is another thing I'm really passionate in spreading a lot more knowledge on. So either next week or the week after that, I'm going to focus all on lab work and it just in order to help you feel more confident and aware of what's going on in your own life. I also know that many antibiotics I had taken over the years were doing massive damage to my intestines and my gut microbiome. When most of the things I was taking antibiotics for, mainly ear infections since I was very little, in hindsight, I now know that those were reactions to food sensitivities. And I had no idea until about a year and a half ago. So here are some things that I know for sure. General practitioners in Western medicine have their place, and I respect that. However, I now see them in a completely different way than I used to. I see them as a completely different entity than functional medicine. I don't want to sound like I dislike them, but I am kind of aware that this episode may come off that way. But like I said, I'm just very pro-functional medicine. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll understand why and maybe be inspired to find your own functional medicine doctor. And when I say functional medicine, just try to keep in mind what I'm including under that umbrella. I'm just kind of including integrative medicine, holistic medicine. So when you hear those things, those are more closely aligned with functional medicine than Western medicine, general practitioners, doctors we go see because they take our insurance. So that's a little bit of a differentiator right there. Now, regular doctors, they are not trained in nutrition. If you'd have one takeaway, please understand that. Don't ever go to a regular doctor and expect them to give you nutritional advice. They are not trained in that area. During all of their years of school, I've heard this statistic time and time and time again. They spend only 4 hours in all of their schooling on nutrition. 4 hours. That's it. That's a half a day's work. I'm not talking 4 college credit hours, but 4 hours, half a day, half of a working day. So they are not experts in nutrition, and that's why they don't recommend nutritional therapies. It's not part of what they do. So please always remember that. The laws also prevent them from going that route. It's called scope of practice. So even if you ask them about diet things, they will give you either a very vague answer or they will steer the conversation in a different direction. Part of that is because of insurance. Doctors have to adhere to the standard of care and insurance regulations. Otherwise, they're not compliant with what insurance companies will require. And then if they're not sticking to what insurance companies cover, then you get a huge bill and then you're responsible for that. And then everybody is upset. So that's another reason they don't go there. What they are trained in is prescribing pills. Now, it's no shocker that pills are chemicals. Chemicals are not a natural substance. They mask symptoms. They are not trained in addressing the root cause. So here's the best analogy I came up with just a little bit ago. So the difference between general practitioners and functional medicine. Imagine, okay, you and your significant other. Let's say you have a fight and you just really don't want to fight. You just want it to be over. So you put on a fake smile and you're like, nope, I'm fine. Everything's fine. But you know things are boiling beneath the surface. General practitioners are that person that's going to be like, nope, I'm fine. Everything's fine. And functional medicine is going to be like, you know what? You're not fine. We need to communicate. I don't care how long it takes, but we're going to find out why this is actually happening. And not the fake reasons, but the real reasons. So that is a good way to think about it, in my opinion. Here are some statistics. 1 in 2 Americans now have some type of chronic or autoimmune disease. Yep, 50%. 1 in 4 Americans has multiple chronic or autoimmune diseases. Almost 30% of kids now have a chronic or autoimmune disease. And 7 out of 10 deaths are caused by chronic or autoimmune disease. Conventional medicine has failed to address this problem, and their model does not allow for it to change. And it's probably not going to change during our lifetime because of how deeply rooted it is. And their models for care don't support the treatments that would have the biggest and most effective impact on actually getting people healthy. So what is functional medicine? Functional medicine focuses on preventing and reversing disease based on what's actually causing the problem rather than just masking the symptoms with a drug. Masking the symptoms with a drug is like the argument where you just put on a fake smile and you're like, nope, I'm fine. That's masking the symptoms. Or then functional medicine appears and they're like, no, we're going to communicate. It's going to be fine. I don't care how long it takes, but we're going to really figure out why this is really happening so you can really feel better and have a real smile. General practitioners are going to focus on naming a certain disease rather than how you got there. We mostly stick to the acute care healthcare model based on treatment of disease with drugs. And that works well if you're in need of repairing a broken bone or if you have a heart attack or you can't stop bleeding. That's great. That's where Western medicine is fantastic. But it can't be relied on for everything. And I hope that I can help open your eyes to why it's a disservice to yourself to depend on it for everything. It's not working for chronic disease by any stretch of the imagination. And yet people continue to see general practitioners for chronic disease. Doctors work based on things that can be measured. But with functional medicine, the waters are so deep and varied from patient to patient that they don't fit the typical data models like health insurance. So a lot of functional medicine practitioners don't take health insurance, and don't let that alarm you. if you haven't looked into it, because they're not going to charge you an astronomical amount in the same way that a regular doctor would if you went to see them without insurance. They have a totally different pricing structure. Another way to help you see the difference is regular doctors are disease focused and they talk about disease. They are disease centric. Gross, right? That's not appealing. Functional medicine is health focused, and those doctors are focused on true health. They are health centric. So when disease occurs in the body, there's loss of function in one or more of the following areas: metabolic, physiological, cognitive, and behavioral. Those are the real markers for what we generally consider as health. Chronic health is created when we have optimal function in all four of those areas. I mean, who wouldn't want chronic health, right? So functional medicine wants you to have chronic health, even to a point where you don't need to see them anymore. Regular doctors are going to continue to want to see you for checkups. Functional medicine doctors, they'll want to see you for checkups to make sure you're on the right path, but they ultimately hope you'll get to a point where they're like, you're great. I don't think you need me anymore. So how awesome is that? Current medical models are set up in a way that you will become dependent on them based on either prescriptions or not truly fixing a diseased state, but just masking it well enough to get by. I also personally believe, now this is another strong statement, but bear with me here, try to hear me out. I believe that one of the biggest misconceptions that most people have is that we are taught that feeling good equals health. And it's absolutely not true. I know that most people believe this because we repeatedly see people, or we become shocked when somebody has a heart attack or gets diagnosed with cancer or autoimmune disease. The fact that we're shocked at that shows that we think feeling good equals health. And that's a disservice to yourself. You're smarter than that. We're smarter than that, right? So the things that lead up to disease have been brewing in the body for years or maybe even decades, but people will tell themselves that they're fine or until one of those life-altering events happens, and then everyone is shocked. But if we stop equating feeling good with health and be willing to put in the work to optimize what's happening inside of our bodies before things like cancer or hormonal imbalance or autoimmune disease or other chronic diseases can happen, then you're going to set yourself up for a great amount of longevity and not just withering away because of disease or just the aging process. You're going to be able to have a more fulfilled life for many more years if you are willing to do the work. And I think one of the greatest things you can do is learn to define yourself through the lens of health rather than through the lens of disease. So how do you find a functional medicine doctor? You can Google it, or you could also join my free Facebook community, the Raw Energy Oasis, and the link is in the show notes. And I'll post some links there that'll get you started on how you can find a functional medicine doctor in your area. Now, moving on to what a health coach actually is. Health coaches can be thought of as part of a new model of addressing disease and disease prevention without using drugs. They are highly trained professionals who can help you create a plan to tackle your main health concerns or symptoms without the cost of a doctor, without the mess of insurance, and often they are people who have been through your current struggles, so they really know what it's like. There's such a drastic rise in autoimmune conditions, and I'm part of that statistic. Here's another statistic. There is a 15-year gap between medical research that's happening and what general practitioners are allowed to legally implement. So that doesn't happen with functional medicine. It's on a much quicker track. So while it might be true that with the things that we're learning in science now, that's another reason why your regular doctors are not going to implement it for another 15 years. And it's crazy, but it has to go through all the legal red tape, and it takes 15 years or probably more. But functional medicine doctors are not tied to that because of their training and the way that they are certified. Their scope of practice lets them implement it as soon as they want to. And health coaches are a big part of bridging that gap because a lot of functional medicine doctors are actually working directly with health coaches and this is where it's exciting for me too, because functional medicine doctors are seeing the value in health coaches like me and wanting to have partnerships so that the functional medicine doctor can do the actual prescribing and overall plan, and they can order the in-depth lab work that you'll never get at a regular doctor. And health coaches can guide the patient along the way in between appointments, and they understand it, even though they can't prescribe, but they're there to really help guide with like real lifestyle change that's really going to make everybody's lives easier. I've heard so many people say that once they started going to a functional medicine doctor, I've heard 50, 60-year-old women say they feel better now than they did when they were 25. No joke. I've heard that so many times. So that's pretty exciting, I think. Health coaches like me are out here to help educate people like you so that you can spend less time at the doctor by learning from us and taking action in ways that can truly improve your health from the inside out, from a cellular level. And it doesn't get more on point than on a cellular level. That's because we're starting from a point of behavior change. We know that, how many have you gone to the doctor and they were just like, yeah, eat more salad, try some yoga, come back, we'll check you out. And they don't care. They don't spend that time with you, but functional medicine does, health coaches do. And that's a way to also get ahead of the curve, working with a health coach or a nutrition coach, so that when you go see your functional medicine doctor, they understand the work you've been putting in, and they might even be impressed with how far you've come with the extra work that you put in to actually really fix things that are going on in your body. A health coach is also there to just inspire passion and purpose in others. We are on your team and we're here to help you unconditionally. We get that life is difficult and it might seem impossible to get any sleep, or it might seem impossible to make time for one more thing, but we're here to be on your team and help encourage you through how difficult it really is, because we understand. And, we're not just going to be like, well, here's what you got to do. See you in a week. It's not, it's so much more in depth than that. And they just empower you with the knowledge to make the best decisions for your life, to eventually, like I said before, get to the point where you might not need them anymore. They are not someone who hands out cookie cutter diet and lifestyle advice and to just be like, okay, come back and check in with your weight and measurements. I want to bring up this point that health coaches and nutrition coaches, the difference between health coach and nutrition coach, it just depends on what school you were certified through. But there's also nutritionists, that's different, and RDs, or registered dietitians, that's different. They have a different scope of practice. Nutritionists and registered dietitians, by law, they are legally allowed to prescribe a personalized one-on-one meal plans or weight loss plan based on one person and make it very individualized. Health coaches are not legally allowed to do that. Now, I know there are countless personal trainers who do that. They'll be like, oh, here's your plan with your macros. Here's what you got to eat. That is technically, it is not in their scope of practice. And there are health coaches I have seen how their business is shut down by the government for handing out one-on-one nutrition plans. But let me explain to you why. Now you might be thinking like, well, why would I use a health coach if they can't actually help me? Here's why there is an advantage to that. So we can make meal guides, and it really, a lot of it comes down to using the proper lingo that is allowed by law. But before you conclude that that's not as good, we give you the starting point. Plus, we also give you the knowledge on how to tweak things depending on how you feel, how your own body reacts, and how your body changes based on that starting point. And we guide you depending on how you feel the entire way. So you could use all three. You could use a functional medicine doctor. You could use a regular doctor. You could use a registered dietitian and a health coach. And if you wanted to use them all, you could, because they all work a little bit differently. But I just hope that kind of explains the differences. One big advantage to working with a health coach is that when you work one-on-one, you end up with greater knowledge, greater self-sufficiency, and more self-awareness. Generally, you just have the confidence to be able to do it on your own, and a greater awareness for just what's happening in your body, rather than just being told like, take this, do that, now weigh in. And you actually know what's really, truly happening. Hopefully that gives you more clarity. If you do have more questions, find me on social media. I'd love to hear your questions. Join the free Facebook community. And also in the show notes, there's something really exciting happening this week. It's a totally free webinar series called the Autoimmune Revolution. Look in the show notes for the link. It started on Monday, but it runs for an entire week, so it's not too late to sign up. They always give away tons of free gifts, and you can watch it for free during the week, or you can even buy it to keep later to watch whenever you want. But even if you can only tune in for like 15, 20 minutes, just one evening, it is so worth it. The content is absolutely amazing. I hope that you will check out that link and just keep learning more. And like I said, join the Facebook group if you want more resources on how to find a functional medicine doctor in your area. And I cannot wait to talk to you about lab testing. Have a great week, and I will talk to you soon.
Celebrate victory.